All right, what is going on out there, everybody? Welcome back to Disney 101. It has been quite some time here. So much has changed since the last time that we've been with you guys, which I believe was way back. We've recorded and uploaded some videos, but if I'm not mistaken, the last time we did a full-blown show may have been all the way back in January. Can that possibly be
I
true,
think
Steve?
so. Yeah, I think because the last time we were recording, we were talking about how it was like kind of sort of the anniversary for the bachelor party and that kind of
Right.
thing, and reminiscing about that. So I think so.
Yeah,
And it's,
yeah, it's been crazy. It's been a little bit of a lengthy period of time. Hopefully, everyone is doing well and staying safe during this pandemic here. Steve, how have you been doing with everything regarding the pandemic?
surviving.
Yeah, I think
You
that's
know, I mean,
we all have to be thankful for that. It's been quite an interesting time period. It's been one of the weirder time periods, and I'll kind of get into a little bit of why we had a little bit of a break here, and then a big announcement of how we're going to kind of relaunch everything here with this week. But I guess Steve, should I start? I guess with everything that I guess transpired for me last year, and then which led up to this trip here in November, which will then coincide with where we're at this week.
I suppose so. Yeah.
All right, sounds good. So I guess it's probably good to start back because if we remember, we were doing shows pretty frequently. I'd say until about October of last year. We pretty much at least once a week would get together and would do shows like this. And we are trying this on Zoom, so if things look a little different, hopefully each week we'll be able to kind of rev things back up and get things going. But we're utilizing Zoom now. We were utilizing StreamYard for a while, but now we're utilizing Zoom. Hopefully this is not too big of an eyesore, too big of a difference for you guys out there. I do have, just so you guys know, I do have a mic and a camera that I was unable to hook up with Zoom, so I probably look a little blurry. Steve, though, looks peachy keen, so all is well. All right, so I think it's probably best I circle back to last year around this time in July. We just celebrated the 1-year anniversary of this when I found out that my wife and I were expecting our first child. My wife had told me in July of last year, and so obviously super excited. We were it was something that we were kind of planning, and so we were in the early stages of planning, and we were very lucky. So we were excited to be having our first child. And in doing so, you kind of set the plan in motion. What am I going to do? What am I going to be? I kind of had a job that I had been at for 5 years or so, and honestly wasn't the happiest person at that job. But I figured, all right, I'm with this company. I've got to stay with this company because I'm having a child. It kind of just is what it is. And then the company itself wasn't doing so well. It had announced they were going to be merging. In doing so, I was one of the folks that was laid off, and my position was really eliminated. I wasn't really laid off. My position was eliminated. They'd offered me another role in the company, but it was going to be something completely not in my field. I'd kind of have to be like taking a bit of a step back. And when I talked to my wife, I originally had thought, she's going to tell me, hey, you have to take this. We're having a child. But on the contrary, she said, no, like, bet on yourself. I have faith that you can do this, and go out there and see what's there. So I remember actually I had gone to visit you, Steve, while I was making this decision. Right before doing this, I had, and one of my biggest pieces of advice to people would always be that even if you're within a company, even if you have a job, make sure you keep your options open and forge relationships that can be helpful to you. And that's something that I did. I had somebody who I had been helping out who was a recruiter. She would come to me. She'd ask if I knew anybody who was looking for jobs. I'd kind of help her out, help people that I knew get jobs through her. And so when I found out that I was losing my job, I contacted her, and right away, I mean, she was great. She has hooked me up with a company and an opportunity that was way more than I thought I'd had for quite some time. And I went ahead and interviewed for it. And then right after that first interview, the company that I currently was at knew that I always frequented Orlando, Florida on my kind of, whenever I had a break. So the company that I was currently working, who had laid me off, had said, hey, why don't you go down to Orlando, think about it, have a fun week down there, and then let us know your decision when you return. And that's what we did. Is that right? In October, I think.
Yeah, I mean that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went and I interviewed. Then I went for a week down to Orlando to visit Steve. We did Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party and Food and Wine Fest.
Mm-hmm.
And then the day I returned from Orlando, I had my second interview with the company, and I felt it went well enough to where I was confident that I was going to get the job. So I told my original company that I would not be staying with them, and then I'd be wrapping things up at the end of October. And so I did. And I left in the end of October. My last day with this company was on a Friday. My final interview with the new company was on the following Tuesday. And by the following Friday, I was officially offered the role. When they offered me the role, they said, hey, you've got a week. It's fine with a week. And can you start in a week? I said, sure, no problem. Because at this point, I'm thrilled I have a new job, ready to start after a week. And then I thought about it, and I said, I don't really want to start in a week. I really was just like, I need a little bit of a break. I had been going so hard for so long, for 5 years in the same company. And like, I talked with the person who was in charge, and I said, if there's any opportunity for me to take a month, let me know. I wanted to take my wife on a baby moon. I wanted to do a couple different things. And she said, no problem. Sounds good. You'll start on November 25th. So then I went back to Orlando because I found out that WrestleMania's on-sale party was going to be that week. So I spoke with Steve, and I flew back to Orlando, spent a couple days with him. And then that's kind of where things went a little haywire. And we'll circle back to that trip here in a minute. Because then what happens is I hit this job running. It is like the most intense job I've ever had. It's a great opportunity, but like, if it's a great opportunity, you've got to work your ass off. Like, you can't really, pardon my French, but you can't really sit around and, do whatever. So I was working incredibly hard, and I didn't want to screw it up. And I had pretty much what happened. And I had pretty much 3 months before the baby was going to be born. So I was like, I need to get through my 3-month probation before the baby's born. So I worked just incredibly hard as I possibly could, gave everything I had to this job. And in doing so, other things that I was enjoying doing, unfortunately, kind of fell by the wayside. And then we have a baby, as you can hear here to my left. And then the pandemic kind of transpires and goes off, and now here we are. And so that is where that is the reason I do take most of the responsibility for that. But now I do think that hopefully we'll be able to get things going again.
Yeah, I mean, it's so weird because it was such a whirlwind couple of months for you from like October until that, like, it basically was like almost bookended, because it started with that trip coming down here, and then you were going like on multiple other little mini excursions and mini trips and stuff throughout that time period, and then which kind of almost culminated in that second trip down here to Disney.
Yeah, no, it really did. It was one of these things where, we did our baby moon to Vancouver, and then I had gone ahead and went to go to Orlando, and I was like, listen, this is going to be the last chance I have to really travel on my own pretty much ever. I don't know of a time that I'm going to be able to basically take off work, vacation, tell my wife, hey, you're good with the baby for a bit, I'm going to go do my own thing for a week. Like, I just don't think that's a possibility. Most of the time, my vacations will be around her, Dakota, and my wife, and we'll be able to kind of do it. So, right now I'm on a 2-week vacation. This is really the first vacation I've had at my new job since I started, other than like 2 quick weeks when she was first born. And so one of the first things I wanted to do was jump on here with Steve and hopefully get going with Disney 101 again.
Yeah, and little did you know that it was going to that the other reason why you weren't going to be able to travel too much is due to, a worldwide pandemic.
Right, because honestly, if I had the opportunity this week and there wasn't any pandemic, I've always tried to kind of forge trips around your birthday, which you just had a couple weeks ago. And right now, I mean, visiting Florida from New York, it comes with a 14-day quarantine. So that just
you'd have to get it both ways, because I mean, with down here too, it's been very weird. Not to get political, but it's been a mess.
Yeah, Florida's definitely been very interesting. But I hope that everything kind of calms down for you guys. It's crazy you guys have the NBA starting up in a couple weeks down in Orlando. Yeah, it's wild down there.
Well, that, and then, Disney reopening past
Right.
couple of weeks. So, it's weird because it's everything is reopening, which is they're almost trying to will it away through just, we're going to reopen and we're just going to try and just see if going back to normal works, and it hasn't. It's made things very worse, much worse. And now we're gonna see, because there are now, it started with Miami down in South Florida. They started to issue a curfew.
Really?
Yeah, and then, which I never understood, like why there's a curfew during, like, the virus doesn't sleep at night, or it's not more active at night, there's no reason. I'm thinking maybe for like emergency personnel or like something. I'm sure there's some sort of weird logic behind it, but it makes no sense to me. But there are some other, lawmakers and either representatives or whoever it is that are calling for us to go back into lockdown, because clearly the first time around didn't work. And I think it's partially because they did it. We did the lockdown, we did quarantine, we did all that stuff, and they said, okay, it's going to be going up until April 30th or whatever it was. And then May 1st came around, and they never renewed it. They never said what was going to happen next.
Right.
And then it was just, yeah, we're going to start reopening now.
Yeah. It's
not measuring anything, not seeing how well it did. They just were like, okay, yeah, no, we did the thing that we were supposed to do. That must have worked. Let's go back to normal. And
yeah,
nope.
It's wild, it's crazy. It's definitely bizarre, and just a lot going on. It's insane to me that Disney is back open, and apparently have said once they reopen, this was it. They're just going to be open.
Well, and the funniest thing, to me at least, is that they're the ones that are kind of on the spotlight. They're the ones that everybody is harping on about. Oh, well, Disney is reopening, and this and that, blah blah blah. And like, Universal opened a couple of weeks before they did, and SeaWorld was open even before that. So right. It's not, as much as Disney is the big one. Disney is the one where all eyes turn to them, and it's kind of the yardstick of, oh, if Disney is closing, it must be a big deal. And if Disney is reopening, that means that, everything's better now, right? Because Disney would never do anything against.
Right, of where it's at. Yeah.
Without a monetary interest in mind. They're always doing right by everybody else, right? They never do anything solely for a monetary reason.
Definitely not. But to circle back then to this trip in November, and really what had happened, because you had taken off when I came down in October, but couldn't take off when I was there in November. So I was kind of in a position where we were off. I think we were off for Labor Day. You were off for Labor Day. So we did our trip to Hollywood Studios, spent the entire day down there. That was great. And then I had 2 days where pretty much this was on a Monday when we were able to both take off. And then Wednesday was the WrestleMania party. So I had 2 days there to kind of finagle things out. And my goal was to go around and see everything Christmas related in the Disney parks and really in the resorts. That was what I was trying to do. And I'm a weird person in that, like, I don't normally do things alone. Throughout my entire life, I've never gone to the movies alone, barely watched a movie on my own. So for me, it was a completely different type of experience. But what I decided to do was, hey, I'm going to try to go film some content here for the channel. And I'm going to go from basically resort hopping and try to get a little bit of footage of every single Christmas related thing that was in the resorts. And so then what we had was pretty much a week long of footage that I had recorded. And some of the resorts I went to, they had some Christmas related stuff. Some of the resorts I went to had absolutely nothing because it was still early. This was like the 11th, 12th, and 13th, maybe 14th of November. And
I think it was Veterans Day. It wasn't Labor Day. I think it was Veterans Day.
Right. Here, where I work, we only have Labor Day off, so that's why. but schools have
Yeah.
Veterans Day. Yeah. So
Yep.
it was Veterans Day that we had off and spent the whole day in Hollywood Studios. And then the next 2 days, I went resort hopping and tried to get as much Christmas footage as I could in a day and a half because I needed to head down to Tampa for this WrestleMania party at the end of Wednesday afternoon. So that was my goal. That was my plan. And then I was out of there first thing Thursday morning and back to New York. So one of the things that was interesting was some of the places they were all ready for Christmas. Like there were some things that I was able to get footage of. There were some things that I was unable to get footage of. But it actually it makes for an interesting watch each day to kind of see if there's going to be Christmas related stuff there, or if this was just going to be my first trip down to one of the resorts. I think one of the more fun videos that I have there is me kind of going to one of these resorts, not to give anything away, and there wasn't any Christmas stuff, but it was my first time at the resort. So I was kind of seeing all the things they did have. They had I think somebody who was there had told me, and I spoke to him off camera, about the icon of the resort is what he called it. Said it's kind of the icon of the resort. It's kind of something the resort's known for. So I filmed that, and then I kind of filmed a little bit of me going around trying to get coffee. And so it's made for an interesting couple of videos, and I never got to put them up during the holiday season because of everything going on and the insanity that was going on. And then you throw in things like Christmas and holidays, and everyone knows this is my wife's first pregnant holidays, so everyone is trying to get her gifts and everything and photo ops. We were at every place we could possibly go. And with all that going on, I just never got a chance to put them up. And I think when I talked with Steve, I'll give you credit for this, I said, what do I do? Do I just sit on this footage until next year where it'll be dated, or do you have any other ideas? And he said, or should I just put it up? I think that was my goal. Should I just put it up in February? And you said, well, why don't you just do Christmas in July? And so here we are.
Here we are.
It is going to be a week's worth of Christmas in July. And a lot of the stuff will be resort stuff. A lot of the stuff will be non-resort stuff. There's a couple non-resort things in there too, park things, stuff from Disney Springs, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I think even you started to learn in the trip before that, in the trip in October when we did Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party and all that stuff, where we didn't do as much park stuff. We did do a ton of park stuff, but there was also that other day where we just spent doing a ton of other things in Central Florida. And in addition to some of those things, we just kind of did a little bit of, Disney Springs and other resort hopping stuff. And I think you finally realize that there, as much as there is to do in the parks, there's so much stuff that you can do in the resorts as well.
Yeah, and I think as I think of kind of reimagining the channel here and kind of where we're going, I think both of us have just so many stories that are related to Disney, but that are also related to the world itself and outside of the world. I started a little thing on the channel called More Than Disney, where I put up something on the Hershey Chocolate Factory here in Hershey. And I think that kind of will allow us to tell some of these other stories, to talk about that trip down where we did things that were completely outside of the park, or when we did something, when we spent a day in Disney Springs, or, you've worked for the park. So that has a ton of stories that come with it. Trips that I've gone to, my first trip as an adult, and we can get into a whole variety of different things while still circling back and doing some of the bigger news items and talking about those as well as they come up.
Yeah. So we could, expanding certain, there's like the current relevant, current event topic of the day type of thing. And then there's the, the personal vlog aspect to it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I think that one of the things that, when I was going around that day, one of my big things was I really want to do a vlog of my first trip on the deal that you move across. What is it? That you go and you're on top of the thing. No one else wanted to ride
Skyliner?
it. What is it called?
The Skyliner?
The Skyliner. Yeah. I was I need to do a video on my first trip on the Skyliner because I was just so intrigued by it, because this is right after the Skyliner opened. Obviously they had the unfortunate crash when it first opened. So My wife definitely didn't want to go on it with me. You guys didn't want to go on it with me. And so I was like, I really need to go on this and film this. And what had happened was they weren't allowing anyone to ride alone. I'm not sure if they still don't do that, but they didn't allow anyone to ride alone. They didn't allow anyone to ride with just two people.
I mean, now with social distancing and all of those rules in place, I feel like they would go a step further and go, you have to ride alone.
Right.
Or only with your immediate party. Like, I feel like that, that
I'd have
aspect.
been
I wonder if it's even open.
It might not be open. Yeah, I don't know.
Because of the close spaces and probably having to like disinfect and clean them every so often and everything like that.
Right. And I'd gone on, and I think for me, my big mistake, and it's always a big mistake. It's one that I've learned from this is better to ask for forgiveness than permission. I was in a thing with I think it was like 8 people at the time, and everyone was just super cool. Everyone was really nice, and there was a young girl who was sitting next to me with her mom, and she was like, "Oh, I wanted to ride alone so I could take selfies and do Instagram photos and this, that, and the third." And mom was like, "Hey, that's fine. I think everyone can still do that." And so, everyone was like, "Yep, no big deal. May as well do it." So then I said, "Oh, it's funny you say that. I'd love to film my trip here for a vlog I do. Is it cool, everyone, if I do that?" Mom and her daughter were like, "Absolutely." And his other couple, who was like awesome and gone to Disney a million times, said, "I'd really prefer if you didn't." And so I didn't get a chance to. And that's probably my only regret, is I probably should have just sat there and done the whole, "What's going on out there, guys? I'm here on the Skyliner." And then if anything, someone could have been like, "Put it away," or "No."
Yeah, I think you would have gotten a lot of judging looks. Or you could have just done the video and then maybe, done like a voiceover or something after it.
That's what I should have done. Yeah, I could have done that. Or what I could have done was I could have done like kind of a secret one where make it look like it's kind of a family video and you're just filming things. "Hey, look what this is here." Maybe I'm on like a FaceTime thing. But unfortunately, no one was, the 2 people said, "I'm sorry, but, I'd prefer if you didn't." I said, "No worries." Then I muttered a bunch of hate under my breath and gave them dirty looks the rest of the ride. But but other than that, there is some really good footage on there, and I hope you guys do enjoy it. It was an interesting time for me because typically I am on borrowed time. I'm fully aware. But I was I was saying, when I was for so long with you working in the parks, I would always be here in New York and jealous over the idea that you were working in the parks. And all right, oh my goodness, all right, this blabbermouth here is not having any of staying in her chair. She wants to be a part of the video. So, yeah. But for so long, you were doing your thing, and I was sitting at home in New York, jealous, and asking you what you were up to, and you'd be like, "Oh, this is great. We did this today, or this today, or this today." And for the first time probably ever, I had the opportunity to be at the park myself and doing things, and you were texting me asking what I was doing and what I was up to.
Yeah, I remember it. I was at work, and I'm just like sitting there. I'm watching all these updates about everything that you're doing and like questions that you're asking me and everything like that. And I'm like, oh, I just need to get out. I just need to come meet you.
Yeah, because I remember you were giving me updates, advice on where I should go to eat and everything to that extent. So it's pretty good. But I think that's going to do it for us today, for now at least. Hopefully this video won't all be for naught. Hopefully I'll be able to put it up, and I won't stop the recording and we'll lose it. But let's see how it goes. Okay. But thanks so much. Anything you want to add here before we get on out of here today, Steve?
No, just hopefully we'll see you real soon.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much. And make sure you follow us over on Twitter at Disney101pod, on Instagram at Disney101pod, right?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And then here, obviously, if you do like what you see, make sure you leave a big thumbs up and subscribe, and get ready for the entire week of Christmas in July, a little bit of a taste of Disney Christmas here in the middle of the summer. So stay safe, everyone, and enjoy. If I could stop the recording.